Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 66 of the Whitey and Will Sports Show. Today is Sunday, February 12th. We are working real hard the last couple of weeks. This is like our fourth episode in the last 2 weeks instead of once a week. We did
two the week with Aaron, two the week with Kenny. We're
yeah.
we're burning the candle on both ends, Whitey.
We're for you, the viewers, by the way, we just love you so much. And we would love for you to tell your friends to keep subscribing. Our subscription numbers keep going up a little bit. We've got some pretty good views. Ken Crawford was on with us Wednesday night, and that's been one of our most popular shows. If you didn't see it, go watch it.
Probably cracked the top 5, didn't he?
Oh, it's definitely top 5. Okay. It's definitely top 5 now. If you didn't see it, go look at it. Great.
It's good.
It was a good time.
And I've had people already send me questions for another Ken Crawford interview.
Well, I hope.
Man, it's stuff I would like to talk to him about that we didn't even touch on. But it was so good, and Kenny's he's good.
Yeah,
I like talking to him. Period.
Yep, that's it was a lot of fun. We'll really have to give him a little time. Don't want to bug him too much, but
we don't.
Maybe a good.
We don't want to wear him out.
Good summertime thing, when we don't.
Fishing season's coming soon, so he's gonna not be too available once the weather changes.
So, since we talked to him for an hour on Wednesday and didn't cover any local stuff, and we don't usually do midweek episodes for local stuff anyway,
right.
We'll touch on the boys regional pairings came out for basketball, and so we're going to close out today's show by taking a look at those regional pairings. But
you gonna screen share with us again?
Yeah, I could do that
without having Ken Crawford's coaching history in the screen share.
I'll do my best. I'll try and click the right button there this time. But before we get to that, of course, they're still playing games. It was actually yesterday was a very busy basketball day across the area between the girls regionals getting kicked off with their quarterfinal games, and then a couple of big shootouts right in the county, right in Effingham County.
Hey, I never did see a score on the last game at Altamont.
You didn't see it? Oh, so you're okay. Well,
no, I'm being serious.
Well, I will.
All I saw was, I think, every game up to the last game.
It was not good for Altamont. They got beat by Tuscola 64-38.
Really? That's surprising.
Yeah, it was I think 31-19 at halftime. I turned on the radio. I was on the way home from covering the T-Town shootout, and turned on the radio, and 31-19 at halftime. I'm like, well, 19 points, that's obviously nobody's real happy about that. And honestly, based on the final score, they basically just replicated the first half and the second half. So that's like 18 wins in a row that Altamont had stacked up, and it comes to an end. Better that a winning streak comes to an end
right
today or yesterday, as opposed to a week from then when the regionals.
Now, Tuscola 2A or 1A?
Tuscola is 1A. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they're all in the same complex.
Yep. Tuscola is a solid team. I don't think I necessarily expected 20.
No, I thought it would be one of those games that'd be fun to watch and be a really good game. But yeah, that score, and truthfully, I had no idea. I just looked either this morning or last night and didn't see it real quick. So
I wasn't sure if you were trying to.
No.
That was the NTC CIC Shootout at Altamont. Big day of basketball. They played 7 games over at Altamont yesterday. And the National Trail, I think, comported itself pretty well.
They won it 4-3 or got beat 4-3. It's pretty close.
Let's see. I never got a final on Windsor Stew Straws. They played Casey, and I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I didn't see that score either.
Well, see, I was actually looking for it this morning, and it hadn't. No, I hadn't seen.
Was that the second last game?
That was the second to last game.
Yeah, I saw up to the North Clay game. I know North Clay won. I know Brownstown St. Elmo won.
See, I've got it in my head that Windsor Stew won that game, but then their girls, those same two teams are playing a girls game too.
Right.
And Windsor Stew won that one. So I was not 100% sure, but I was checking max preps, and neither team had put it in yet. So
And did you check Nesto Hoops?
uh, who's that? Never heard of him.
See, I'm just telling you. That's your source, man.
Well, I'll do a little digging as we talk and see. But
Right.
Central A&M beat Neoga 51-50 in the opener.
That's right.
CHBC lost to Macon Meridian 66-53 in the next game. But then St. Elmo Brownstown beat Sullivan by 16, 64-48. Dietrich got Warrensburg Latham 40.
Yeah, that one got him what? How many?
4 points, 46-42.
Okay.
North Clay beat Shelbyville 82-74. The aforementioned Windsor Stew and KZ game, I'll try and double check, but I'm pretty sure Windsor won that one. I'm pretty sure.
Well, how many games were there? That's 6 right
7.
there.
That's 6 there, and then Tuscola beats Altamont 64-38 in the final.
Who did North Clay beat yesterday?
They beat Shelbyville.
Were they there too?
Yeah.
Well, that's more than 7 games, isn't it?
No, it's 7 games. Central A&M over Neoga.
1.
Macon Meridian over CHBC.
2.
St. Elmo Brownstown over Sullivan.
3.
Dietrich over Warrensburg Latham.
4.
North Clay over Shelbyville.
5.
Windsor Stew over KZ, I think.
Really?
And Tuscola over Altamont.
So possibly the NTC went 4-3.
Yeah. I think the dangers of doing a Sunday show is that most of the media outlets don't post anything until Monday, and so you're kind of at the mercy of whatever people happen to put on Twitter. And I looked this morning for a long time and couldn't find anything final, but that was regardless. A lot of basketball in Altamont.
All right, you check Nesto and I'll check another one.
Yep. Yeah, they started at 10 o'clock. They played all day long. So I obviously couldn't have been over there because
Windsor beat Casey 60-52.
Okay. See, now that you say that score, I'm like, yeah, I heard that. So I don't know. Just
wow. Those last 2 games to me, I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm a little shocked.
Casey's lost like 10 games this year, and I don't think that was exactly what people were thinking about them whenever the year started. I think I haven't seen them, so I couldn't speak intelligently on them. I just know what the reputation was, that Casey people seem to think they were going to have a real good year, and not that 15 wins or whatever is a bad season, but I don't think it quite stacks up to maybe what the preseason hype was going to be for them.
So. Well, to get out of our area, 2 scores that surprised me from Riverton. Well, they didn't really surprise me. Williamsville beat Pinckneyville. Williamsville's been beat by Pleasant Plains. They beat Pinckneyville. And then Plains turned around and beat Princeton. Princeton's ranked like top 3 or 4 in 2A. So just,
Christmas tournament teams, right? You're always following them, always keeping
track. Follow Plains. And yeah. Follow Lincoln Way, follow Oak Lawn. Yeah, I keep tabs on most of them. Knoxville's got 18 or 19 wins. I mean, it'll be interesting to see the records. Plus, our new team coming in got their 26th win.
That's can I say who that is? Huh?
Seneca's coming in for Knoxville.
Okay. I didn't know if you'd
for 1 year. 1 year deal. They got 26 wins this year, and they don't have a lot of seniors.
Well, there you go.
That's what we want.
Just sticking before we get to the T-Town shootout, just kind of sticking with Altamont a little bit. They had beaten Neoga earlier this week at Neoga, beat them by 27, but that game was close for a half, and I think maybe even into the third quarter a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And then
that game was close at the tournament too, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they also were missing, they were missing a couple of their guys.
I understand.
And then they went to St. Elmo Brownstown and won that game by 11 on Friday. And that one was pretty, I think they were down 8-0 out of the gate, I believe I heard.
Really?
And then came back and won it by 11. But, I guess maybe things weren't necessarily clicking on all cylinders, firing on all cylinders heading into yesterday's game with Tuscola in the first place. And so maybe, again, maybe that's just a good reset, right? Like a
Well,
good.
and sometimes kids start reading how long their winning
Oh,
streak
sure.
is too.
They're up there in the Class 1A rankings, right? Number 2 team in the state, I think. And it's high school, you just never know exactly what you're going to get night
I
to night.
agree, 100%.
But maybe that's a
Well, you don't.
well-timed kick in the pants, right? Like get you back understanding that if you're not coming out there giving forth the 100% best effort every night, chances are there's still a chance that you get beat, and they've got a big week coming up. So they certainly, again, if it was going to happen against a non-conference opponent, would be the time to do it, because they got a big conference week coming up with St. Anthony coming in on Tuesday, and then they have to go to Windsor, Stew Straws on Friday. Altamont's got a chance to win the conference outright, but they got to win both of those games most likely, right. And so there you go.
Well, that's why you don't play on paper.
Sure, yeah. And like we mentioned, they've gotten some guys back, and I guess you kind of thought, well, they won the national trail tournament. Really, they won the championship game in probably more one-sided fashion than we might have expected, given that they were missing, 2 starters. And now they've got everybody back in the fold, and maybe it takes a little while.
Is the Phillips kid back?
Yeah, he's playing. I don't know how much, but he's definitely. I saw his name in the box score a little bit.
Okay.
And
I'll be interested to look at the box score. Millie posts from yesterday. I'm assuming those will be out sometime tomorrow.
I would think so. Yeah. I just know that, I made a 12-point game at halftime, and then I was kind of flipping stations around a little bit, and bounced back to that game. And I'm hearing names of kids that are usually on the end of the bench, don't get in unless it's a blowout. And I'm like, wow, maybe Altamont turned it around, and instead, it just got out of hand on them. So these things happen. Another good shootout though, over at T-Town. They had 5 games.
I saw the first one went overtime. You really don't want that to happen in your shootout.
No, but I'll tell you what, it went overtime, but they got back on track.
Okay.
They did manage to get things pretty much back on schedule. I think maybe by having 12 minutes between games a couple of times, but they were able to do it. Yeah, that first one was between Alton and
Belleville West, wasn't it?
Althoff, I think.
Well, was it Althoff? Probably was East. We're probably
you're the guy who has this connection to Teutopolis athletics here. No, it was Althoff.
Hey, I was sick.
I was
in my recliner.
Alton beat Belleville Althoff by 10 points in an overtime game started. Then Robinson beat Mattoon by 13. And then you had the 3 local teams. And I watched all 3 of these games broadcast, the last 2. Troy Triad beat St. Anthony 61-39. And that's pretty deceiving, because that was
it a 4 or 5 point game at the half?
3-point game.
I turned it on at halftime.
3-point game at halftime. St. Anthony was down, and then Triad never cooled off on its 3-point shooting.
I know. That kid just kept burying him.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, this is not me trying to call anybody out, but some kids, when the student section for a school is getting on them, it can get in their head and they start taking bad shots and missing them. But then sometimes they'll just start pulling the trigger more and burying.
So you're telling me this kid ate it up a little bit, huh?
I think he might have been enjoying it. That's all I'm going to say.
So the dog pound maybe was trying to get in his head.
They were trying, and he hit one. Well, here's what I don't know. I was not paying close attention to what happened leading up to it, but he made one right in front of him at one point and then gave him the look. And then
that's an open invitation for chirping.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he was certainly asking for it, but it didn't seem to affect him. I think one of his coaches might have told him at a certain point to
knock it off,
calm down a little bit. But Triad, and the thing about Triad was they were they were uh they were doing a trap press in the full court for the first half, and even in the half court defense, they were doing a lot of trapping out along the
The
perimeter.
corners.
Yeah, it was like I don't know if it was 1-2-2 or 1-3-1. I'm not good at diagnosing zone defenses sometimes, but it was working pretty well, I thought. And then they just decided to go man, and I thought, why would you change what's working for you? But then I don't know. Then they outscored St. Anthony big time in the second half, and that's
The
why.
man must have given St. Anthony fits because yeah, it sounded like St. Anthony was struggling offensively. But man, I kept
Yeah.
hearing who was the kid from Triad kept hitting the threes? Noise,
Um,
noise.
let me pull out my trusty program here. Well, they had a kid named Hit that was making a bunch too, but yeah, there was a noise also. So
Yeah, he was like he hit a couple in a row, and Matt and Greg were kind of like, "Oh my god."
6'5" also, by the way, the
Yeah,
noise kid. So yeah, that's I mean, they were a solid looking team. I mean, I don't
that's good.
obviously I can't profess to know, and that's the beauty of these shootouts is you're seeing teams that
Right.
you're not familiar with. But
So I'd like to see you bring like a, like a Mount Zion against Lincoln Way East, something like that.
yeah,
That
uh,
would be. I think that would be very enjoyable to watch.
I think I don't think that it's a bad loss for St. Anthony, other than maybe not being able to stay
No, and
close.
it's but that's the whole idea of playing these types of games is okay, that's another thing we've now faced, we've experienced.
Yeah,
You're not going to face stuff in the postseason that they haven't already faced. That's really the beauty of it. I mean, it really is. That's when you play the schedule where you're only concerned about getting W's, you know, you need to face bigs, fast,
hmm,
strong, athletic, slow tempo, up tempo. You got to face a little bit of everything so you're not shell shocked.
yeah, and not to get ahead of ourselves too much because we haven't talked yet about who's going where for regionals, but just to kind of because it ties into this conversation. I mean, St. Anthony and Christ Our Rock Lutheran are in the same regional, and
Right.
what video I have been able to find of Christ Our Rock, they like to do some of those same things that Triad was doing in the first half of that game, as far as playing defense, the length of the court, and doing a lot of trapping, in the half court. So I think for St. Anthony, it's a good game to get, because I think that's the style of play you might run into in a potential regional championship game. Uh,
Yeah.
not to count chickens before they hatch, because in all these 1A regionals in the area, you're going to have to work to get to that
It's a
final.
pack your lunch. It really is.
Yep. But we'll get to it.
Okay.
After the St. Anthony game, then Effingham
Effingham beat Jerseyville.
and beat it by 22, 66-44. I'm not going to say that game was a thing of beauty, because I think both teams got a little sloppy at times, but I think Effingham by and large played really well. Like it's a good game for them, just a feel good game for them. And I'm sure they were, given what's going on with the school district, guessing they were glad just to be able to get out there and play it, right? Because
Yeah.
they had to cancel their game, postpone or cancel. I don't know yet what it's going to be. Their game.
Well, they're potentially could be postponed because they've
Yeah,
actually weak. We'll just have to see. That's I feel sorry for. I mean, it was but you know, you don't have your fire alarms. I mean, there's a lot of things that don't work right now.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need
Kind
to
of
get
hard to have people in your building with certain. Oh, no one will set a fire. Said the people who yell fire.
Yeah, I mean, for people who don't, and I would imagine most of the people who are watching this are going to already sort of know that they had a situation at Effingham High School this week where I was sometime Thursday, I guess, they realized that they had some. I mean, I don't even completely understand what's going on, because they haven't like 100% said, right? Like, I mean, because maybe they're still trying to figure it out, but basically they can't have they couldn't have things going on in the building because of potential security issues.
Yeah, I mean, everything's tied. Your doors
Yeah,
locked, your
it's a computer
alarms.
network thing,
Oh,
right? Like
it is.
so
And people say, "Oh, you shouldn't be," but everyone,
it's
every
20
aspect of our society is. I had
it's
a person tell me,
2023. Yeah.
yeah, I had a person tell me, well, they're relying too much on computers. Well, in your job, you rely on a computer every day to tell you if you can go work outside and do what you're doing. Why don't you just
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
the sky every morning and plan your multi-million-dollar business on which way the wind's blowing?
Yeah.
Okay, don't tell me school districts are no. It's like everything in society.
No, yeah, I
So
mean, like, listen, there's nothing Effingham did wrong. It's a tough situation, right? I
right,
mean,
no, and it is, and it's just I don't want to see when it affects everything, and it sounds like I know teachers have in service tomorrow, and it sounds like they're going to probably be back to school Tuesday with kids, but it'll be a different. I mean, they've got to totally just about redesign everything because they can't. Some of their curriculum, they print stuff off of out of app,
mhm,
instead of spending a lot of money on textbooks, districts have kind of gotten away from that. And I know there's
sure.
some people saying that's stupid, but it's not really. But there's some things are hamstrung, and
Yeah.
they've just got to find ways around it, and they will, and they'll finish and do things well. It's just people think it's a 30-minute or a 60-minute TV show, and they want the answer, by Thursday at 4 or 5 o'clock. When teachers were literally told, as soon as the bell rings, get out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they couldn't play the girls were supposed to Effingham's girls were supposed to have a home game with Mount Zion Thursday night. That was called off, and I don't know there's probably no resolution to that. That's just not gonna it's not gonna get
Postseason
played.
starting, I don't know that that's hard.
Nobody, I don't know. Like I haven't asked Dave Woltman what the deal is yet because I'm sure he doesn't need me bothering him because
Yeah,
he's
I'm not going to talk today. Go growl.
yeah, but yeah, I mean Effingham's girls they play a regional game tomorrow night at Mattoon. So there's it's you do the math. I don't see how that Mount Zion game gets played, right? Like I don't know how it goes in the standings or if it's just not played, doesn't happen. I hate to speculate because I just don't know what the protocol is. These things don't happen very often, but
No, and they don't. And it's just, it's not like, well, our best player's sick, so we don't want to play. No, that's not the case.
no,
So
no,
I
nothing
don't
like that.
know. It's a mess. And, when the FBI is involved with it, that tells you some things.
Yeah.
Just,
But getting back to the actual basketball game that Effingham's boys played
okay.
yesterday. Again, they win by 22 points. They were comfortably ahead most of the way. And I really thought that I'm pulling up I've got the box score here. They had 4 guys in double figures. Yeah. So
Donaldson hit 2 threes to start the game.
yeah, and that's what that helps them a lot.
So were you doing the game?
Yeah, I was doing that game.
Jerseyville playing the zone?
Um, yes, they started out that way, but they gave it up pretty
Like,
quickly.
and I talked about on the radio when Andrew Donaldson can set and catch and shoot. He's very effective.
Yeah, he ended up with 18 points.
Yeah.
Andrew Splector had 20. And that's always good for Effingham. You can get that kind of scoring out of guys, and Garrett Wolf
Yeah.
is the third leading scorer. I mean, Garrett had a kind of a tough shooting game, and then obviously, as is the case so often, teams know who they want to try to stop, and
Sure.
so he's going to be the focus, and that's why it's so important for other guys to step up and knock down shots early in a game. Can take a team out of its defensive game plan. So, that was good. Spencer Fox actually scored 10 points in that game. He went through a stretch there in the third quarter where all of a sudden he was just like in shoot first mode and he was making them. And we were just like, wow, this is not what we're used to seeing. And I'm not suggesting that Spencer needs to like start putting up 12 or 14 shots a game, but it was a fun little thing to watch on the day where he
Good
was
for
feeling
him.
it for whatever reason.
Kid plays hard. He really
Yeah.
does.
And then T-Town beats Centralia 44-38 in the final game of the night. And that was never more than 7 points. T-Town got up by 7. Centralia got a 3-pointer, and that was T-Town never got up that much again. That was in the first half still, I think.
I listened to you guys' second half of that game.
It was a
I
tight.
like Caleb Seymour had some nice moments in the fourth quarter.
Well, here's the thing. Caleb Seymour only scored 8 points, I think, but that doesn't begin to tell you what kind of a game he had. He passed the ball so well last night. He a couple of nice little bounce passes on to
Cutters when they're doubling.
Yep. And then there was one from the high post where it was just a touch pass. Just extremely good court vision. Like, he's a smart player. I think that's the thing. Like, he's not just like some big oaf. You know what I'm saying? Like,
he's just not a pretty face.
Well, and I hope he wouldn't take it personally for me to agree with you on that one. But I'll tell you what, Centralia had a big of their own, a kid by the name of Ja'Kai Brown. They've got him listed at 6'2". I don't know about that. He seemed a little taller than that to me, but let me tell you something. He's
pretty solid.
He was, like I told Greg during the broadcast, I said, them going at it on the block, it really felt like something that should have been happening on the line of scrimmage.
That's good.
Good for Caleb. A couple of big boys. And that the Brown kid, he didn't play like a lot of minutes in a row. He had to be spelled a lot. But when they were in, they were taking up a lot of space under the basket going at each other. It was
that's good.
But Caleb played a great. I had him down for a half dozen assists. So 8 points, handful of rebounds, and assisting on that many more buckets in a game where you won scoring 44 points. I mean, that's a nice all around game. But then Brennan Nieberge hit some 3-pointers at big times for them.
Well, again, when he shoots it well, that just makes them so much better.
Yeah. And Joey Nieberge, I thought, played a pretty nice game too. He can get to the rim, I mean, he can do it. And he'll go up and get some rebounds. They got good rebounding across the board as a team. I just thought I don't know, I mean, we were talking a little bit before we came on. Obviously, a low-scoring game like that, you do find yourself, you were playing Centralia's game a little bit. So that's what Lee Bennett likes to do. He likes to limit possessions. And there was one point where, their point guard brought it across midcourt and just they stood there and looked at each other for a while. But regardless,
well, and Centralia is usually a very athletic team, and if T-Town went out and tried to belly him, man to man, we can guard you anywhere in the gym. Centralia's going to shoot layups. Okay, I've seen that song played before, so I understand that. I got Gary Shirley's kids to speed up one time. Well, they loved it. Didn't pan out too well for them.
Yeah, I mean,
they had fun for a while.
Centralia, like, overall, I mean, they only played 7 guys. But they had a couple of really quick guards that I think if it were up to them, they probably would play an up and down kind of game. It'd be difficult to guard them that way for a full game, but again, that's just not what he wants to do over down there.
I know. And like I said, Lee's a very successful coach.
Very successful.
I'm not going to question him. I run a podcast, so
he wasn't a real happy guy by the time the game
that's what it sounded like. Yeah.
I can't speak to it too much. I mean,
I saw him years ago when I was helping Andy. I think Andy had some classes at Eastern, and Rich Preps and I had to have T-Town in summer league game, and we may have ended up playing Centralia, and they were happy that day and they were flying up and down the floor. So they can.
Yeah, I mean,
But his brother may have been coaching. Lee may have not been there, and his brother's or something.
in a tight game like that, of course, like there's always going to be, I mean, there's going to be some that don't go your way, and you're going to
Oh,
feel
sure.
like, well, if it had, then the game goes differently. But it regardless, the Shoes won, and they've won 5 games in a row now, which
Yeah.
they kind of got in a bit of a lull, I guess you could say, and have to be feeling a little better about things. Up to 21-7 now.
They got only Thursday. Got anybody Tuesday?
Yes. Mattoon. They go to Mattoon.
Oh, go to Mattoon Tuesday.
Yeah,
Only Thursday. And then they host the regional, so that's good.
Yeah, I think going to Mattoon, like Mattoon's having a poor season, but I don't think that doesn't make them easy to play necessarily.
It's just something about that gym. I don't know. I don't really remember very often going there for anything and really saying, "Gosh, we played well at anything," and I've coached anywhere. So.
Yeah, but I think Olney coming in on Thursday will be a
That'd
really
be a good ball game.
Yeah, it
Be a
should
good
be.
test.
I mean, obviously, we talk about Lee Bennett being a great coach. I mean, Rob Flanagan is, one of the best. So
Rob kind of got revenge Friday night too. Thump Newton. Newton beat him in the LIC finals and only turned out beat him 18, I think.
yeah. I mean,
18?
it's I didn't see the exact final. I did hear
I
that
want to say it was like 64-45 or something.
yeah.
I wasn't surprised only won. I was surprised they won by that much. But Newton, man, I saw him play 2 different halves at T-Town. They played really, really well, and then they suddenly couldn't make a shot.
Yeah, I mean, Newton must have played extremely well in that LIC tournament overall, because I mean, really, they didn't have any easy games, right? Like they had to.
No, they started with Mount Carmel. That was their first game.
Well, that's right, because they beat Mount Carmel after Mount Carmel had beaten them not too awful long before that, right? That was the deal.
Yeah.
And then
that's why the postseason is such a head scratcher, because wait a minute, I beat you, you beat them, they beat them. You start playing that game, and pretty soon IHOP's the best seed.
Yeah, it's best to just not think about it too much, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Newton beat Mount Carmel in overtime, then they beat Casey by 7, and they beat Olney by 3. So you run the table, run the table in the week, and yet you won 3 games by a grand total of 12
points.
Huh? Yeah, pretty good stuff for them.
Yeah.
But Newton since then, they had won a couple games in a row. They'd beaten Tolono Unity and Marshall before that one. So
right.
After losing that game at T-Town. Let's see, what other boys stuff do I want to hit on here? I mean
that's it. There wasn't much else.
Yeah, we talked about Altamont. We talked about St. Anthony. They beat South Central on Tuesday. That was it didn't turn out to be a real close game. And for St. Anthony, that just kept them in the position where they could still prevent Altamont from winning the conference outright, right? Like it puts a little bit more on this game Tuesday night between.
Well, then Altamont still got to go play Windsor.
Yep.
And
absolutely.
That Windsor just beat Casey, so again,
Windsor's 2 straws. I mean, yeah, they're just. And I'd say this about any NTC team pretty much. I mean, you don't want to face them, right? Like you might beat them, but it doesn't mean that you had fun with it. Let's see, Effingham's boys. That was since they had their situation. They lost to Charleston on Tuesday night, and didn't play their game Friday. So Effingham's kind of slipped down to where they're gonna finish ahead of only Mattoon and Taylorville in the Apollo. They had a chance, if they could have beaten Charleston, if they could have beaten Mattoon. Also, they lost this game to Mattoon, which you probably feel like after beating them twice already this year, you feel like, gosh, we should have had that one.
At least they're not all in the same regional.
Yeah, but if they'd won those 2, then they'd be right up there in the conversation for third in the conference. Mount Zion's obviously going to win it. Lincoln's up there also, kind of a slog in the middle. Anyway, Effingham's supposed to play. They gotta go to Mount Zion on Thursday, and that's where their season closes out. And I don't know what they're going to do about the Lincoln game, if they're going to try to play it. Lincoln's already got games scheduled for Tuesday and Thursday this week. So I don't know what they do
If
about
I'm
that.
Lincoln, I don't want to play 3 days in a row or 3 in the last week going into
No, and
regionals. That's
it
just
doesn't
me.
have any bearing on the conference. Mount Zion's already got
I'm
it.
worried about
So
pounding my kids 3 days the last week going into postseason.
yeah. Yeah. We talked about T-Town having talked about T-Town. They beat KZ Tuesday night before they played Centralia this weekend. Beat KZ by 14, you know. Already kind of talked about KZ's.
At KZ.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's still a good win. I don't think KZ's quite what people thought they were going to be, but
Right.
you know, it's still a good win to go to their place and beat them by 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some interesting girls games this week too. I think I want to touch on, especially Monday night in the National Trail, because and I never really did get a concrete answer on this, but St. Anthony and Tuscola ended up playing. When we talked on last Sunday night, I didn't even know that they were playing this game. I had not looked at updated schedules, didn't realize they're playing this, but Tuscola comes into the Enloe Center with an undefeated record, and the distinct possibility that they're going to face St. Anthony in a sectional semifinal in a week's time. And they went ahead and played. They added a game to the schedule, and St. Anthony thumped them, beat them by 20 points.
I wonder who reached out to who. I almost asked. I was going to text Kevin and just say who requested this game.
Yeah.
As a coach, I don't know if I would have wanted to do that from the standpoint. There's a chance you're going to meet in the postseason shortly.
I think
I don't know. I think, okay, Vonderheid's a lot quicker than she looks on tape. I don't want you to see her in real person. I don't know. Just stuff like that.
Yeah,
Coaches think weird things sometimes.
I don't know. The idea that was put forth to me that I did buy into a little bit was Tuscola probably doesn't really feel like they play.
Oh, I don't doubt that, but I might try to find someone else to play.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
I'm sure St. Anthony's glad they did it now, right? I mean, they got to feel.
Well, you assume they are. Unless all of a sudden Tuscola says, okay, we saw what you got. Now here's what we're going to do. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it could be a good chance, and maybe each coach is looking at it a good chance for a little gamesmanship, right? Like, I'll show you this, and then somewhere down the road, I'll show you a little something else. I don't know. I don't without asking, and I don't want to make any assumptions, but it's just fascinating that they played it. It's not a thing you see very often. But certainly made for interesting speculation, and it's a nice win for St. Anthony. They're up to 25-5, and I know they've won more games this year than ever before.
Well, the IHSA allows you to play so many games. Very few schools max that out, but they have that, rainy day chip they can use sometimes. So I think number's 31, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah.
But also that's good for them. I'm glad they got the win and did it the way they did it. So, but who knows? We're going to know more in 2 weeks, Whitey.
Also that night, T-Town was at Neoga for a girls game. And so the St. Anthony Tuscola game, that's two teams that are ranked in the top 10 in Class 1A. And then Neoga is also ranked in 1A, and T-Town ranked in 2A.
They call this game should have been called the Short-Handed Bowl, since both teams were missing key players.
Yep. Emily Conkle missing for Teutopolis, and then Haley Campbell out for Neoga.
And
I think the hope is,
I forget which one of the Preps girls has been a starter also. She may be out for a while. And Emily's iffy. That's the bad thing. You just especially hate to see a senior get dealing with an injury late in the year.
But Neoga won that one 53-47. They were down 9 at halftime. Kaylee Nieberge, by the way, she got her thousandth point in style. Okay, she hit a 3-pointer at the halftime buzzer.
From a couple steps beyond the arc.
Yeah, she was back there. And the thing is, she had a great first half, and then really, Neoga able to do some things differently, I guess, and keep her from killing them quite so much in the second half. And Neoga turned it around and got the win. And I get it. Neither team's 100%, but for Neoga, that's a good win just because you got to go back like 40 years. I asked. Apparently, it's not the. It doesn't sound like it's the first time Neoga's beaten T-Town, but it's the first time since like the very late 70s. So, and it's obviously things were a little different back then than they are now. But I think, for Neoga, it's a fun game to win just because, like, how often do you beat T-Town at anything,
Yep.
So you still enjoy it, whether they were missing somebody or you were missing somebody or what,
Right.
right? Like,
No, I agree. And that's the thing. And it'll just be interesting to see. T-Town has to go to Carmi, I believe, for their regional. And it'll just be I don't think it's a regional. And I say this sitting in my basement on Sunday. I don't know they're overly concerned about the level of competition at that regional. How's that? However, like we said, it's not on paper. You still play the game. And as soon as you go in and have that attitude, all of a sudden, they keep hitting shots, and then pretty soon they're hanging around and they're getting excited, and you
yeah,
get a little case of sphincteritis, and then it's on, and you don't want
yeah,
that.
yeah. I agree with you. T-Town they will play Carmi White County in their first game of that regional.
Right.
They won a quarterfinal game against that
They
OP.
beat IHOP.
Yep, didn't get challenged much there. Fairfield and Mount Carmel are playing in the other semifinal. I've seen Fairfield. They're a nice team. I don't see them if it's them and T-Town. I don't see them. I don't see them winning it But again, weird things can happen. So,
Strange things happen.
but yeah, it sounds. I haven't. It sounds like Conkle's going to give it a try, but they just don't really know. You know, it doesn't sound like they know. She's got a problem with her foot, I think it sounds like, and it just you just got to get her out there and see what she can do and what she can tolerate and how you want to go forward. But then for Neoga, like the Campbell girl hurt her knee, but they took it. They went and got it looked at, and there's no there's nothing structurally, like she doesn't need surgery or anything. It's just a matter of how it's going to feel. And so
Right.
they got to decide how they want to try and ease her back into things. I think she's practiced a little bit now, and they've got Windsor Stew Straws Tuesday night, and they should win. They should win that game with or without her. But it'd be nice for them to at least, get a feel.
Get her up and down the floor.
Yep. Yeah. See how she can run the floor a bit. So that'd be interesting just to see what they do. Yeah, the girls' regionals are underway. And so some of our local girls' teams have already bowed out as we speak because they played quarterfinal games yesterday. Diederich got knocked out by South Central at the North Clay Regional, and also North Clay beat Altamont in that same regional. So Altamont's season is done. That's unfortunate for Altamont. You felt like you're going to be a contender in the NTC, and then not only your leading scorer, but one of the best
player
players
in the history of your program.
Yeah, one of the best players who's ever played in the area. And still has another season to go. So, luckily she should be able to help them next year. But for them to go from what the expectations were to winning 11 games this year, not what they hoped for. But that's life sometimes, right? It doesn't go as expected. So you're going to have in that regional, St. Anthony's going to play South Central tomorrow in a semifinal, and then the other one's going to be Brownstown St. Elmo versus North Clay, which should be a pretty good game. They've played each other twice very recently and split. North Clay won the third place game in the NTC girls tournament, and then they played actually 2 days later, and Brownstown got them by, I don't know, 9 or 10 points. So that'll be a fun one. And then, of course, the winners of those two will play Friday night for a championship at North Clay. And then the Neoga Regional, You had Windsor Stew Straws beat Casey, so they'll get to play Neoga Tuesday night in a semifinal. And CHBC played Martinsville, and Martinsville's just, they struggle. And CHBC beat them by 50 points. So CHBC will play Cumberland in the other semifinal at the Neoga Regional. Cumberland beat Ramsey, another team that just struggles, but Cumberland played well, beat them by 30, 59-29. So CHBC and Cumberland, the other semifinal, and the winners will play in the Neoga Regional Championship. And both of those regionals feed into the KZ Westfield sectional next, which again has the potential to be a whole lot of fun. Really, really looking forward to the potential matchups that you could get out of that one. So we'll see. We talked about what T-Town's done and who they'll be playing. Effingham's girls, they play Charleston tomorrow in the Mattoon Regional semifinal. Effingham's girls have already played Charleston 3 times this year, and they are going to win.
That's going to get potentially ugly.
Yeah, that's going to be Effingham's 20th win. I'll go ahead and say that they're going to win it. I don't feel like I'm jinxing anything, because
what are you jinxing?
Charleston hasn't, any game they've lost this year has been unfortunately by 30, 40, 50 points. You know, I mean, it's just it's not close most of the time. So Effingham will win that, and then they'll play either Mattoon or Albany Friday night in a regional championship.
And they beat both of them, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So
but I think
Mattoon, both of those games are close. So,
right.
So that'd be a fun one. I think that could be that regional championship could be a good competitive game. I think that pretty much does it. I mean, for the girls.
All right, let's jump to the boys. I'm not sharing my screen, but I'm looking at the schedule right now.
All right, so let me pull up the boys here.
I can read this easier, I think, than your screen sharing, maybe.
Well, we don't have
share your screen and let me see.
Let's see.
Start with 1A. That would be orderly. Dustin White.
That's 2A, but
2A. Yeah, you only had one job.
Scroll down here.
Yeah, so look at
under the Carbondale Super Sectional heading and the Altamont Sectional.
Yep.
But then we'll just start. We got area teams and 3 1A regionals feeding into.
Now, I had a discussion with Mr. Britton.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And at the time of the seedings, he was very surprised Tuscola got seeded higher than Casey. Because he felt that might, again, if things go according to Hoyle, that could create a semifinal of Altamont Casey, again, if things go according to rankings. Not every game will go according to rank. I'm just saying. And his argument was potentially what should have been the 2 highest seeds now potentially will meet in a sectional. Well, and then Tuscola gets beat by Windsor Stew Straws. And Casey gets beat by Windsor Stew Straws, and Tuscola handles Altamont. So hindsight being 2020, but at the time of the seeding, he was surprised.
Yep.
And I understand why, but yeah, that goes to show you that Altamont sectional is going to be fun.
Yeah, so you look at this Nokomis regional, and Altamont got the number 1 in their subsectional. That's not a surprise, of course. The only other local team that we've got in there is St. Elmo. They're the 8, playing a Patoka team that I believe they've beaten this year already.
And Nokomis, Altamont beat Nokomis, but not soundly at Nokomis.
Yep. I mean, what you're looking at here.
But don't overlook Brownstown St. Elmo. I'm telling you, I was impressed with them at the NTC.
Yeah, no, this is what you're looking at is that Altamont is going to play either. I mean, they're going to be Mulberry Grove. They'll play Carlisle or Edinburgh in the semifinal. You're going to put some pretty.
They already handled Carlisle once, pretty good.
They're going to. Unless something really weird happens, they should be in the championship game. But then on the other side of that regional bracket, Nokomis ought to beat Ramsey, and then St. Elmo Patoka, St. Elmo. Let me just go look. I just want to be sure, but I think that St. Elmo has.
Well, I'm just going to tell you a potential St. Elmo Nokomis pairing would be a really good ball game.
Yeah, St. Elmo beat Patoka by 26 points when they played earlier this year. So,
okay.
So, yeah, Nokomis and St. Elmo Brownstown could be a pretty fun game. And then whatever championship game you get out of that, has the potential. It's because Altamont and St. Elmo Brownstown just played a 9-point game, and Altamont and Nokomis just played a 4-point game.
Yeah,
so
I know.
So whatever you get there, I mean, Altamont for what their resume is this year, to be that challenged in a regional, you don't see it all the time. But that's
and the fun's just beginning.
Yeah, it is what it is. It's just basketball in this area.
Yeah.
You're very good, but so are a lot of other teams. So then you go down to this Cumberland regional. Let's see. Yeah, because the Comus regional winner will play the Cumberland regional winner. So Casey's the top seed there.
And now this has an interesting twist because the second seed here is now Windsor Stew, who just beat the top seed.
Yeah, I mean you're right. You look at this on one side of the bracket, you're going to have Central A&M and Casey playing. Central A&M's had a tough year.
Right.
Neoga and Martinsville will play. Neoga's a higher seed there by 1, but Martinsville came to Neoga and beat them once already this year. So they're going to get to Neoga's going to get another chance to defend its home court because, again, all these quarterfinal games are on the higher seeded team's floor.
Right.
On Saturday. I guess we didn't really mention that, but all these games in the first round are on Saturday. And then CHBC will play Windsor Stew Straws, and Macon Meridian plays Cumberland on the other side of things. So you got some interesting semifinal potential here. Right. Like say you get a KZ Neoga semifinal. Well, they played a pretty close game at one point this season. KZ won, but Neoga hung tough.
Yeah. If it's the Neoga team that beat North Clay.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. And that's what you have to keep in mind is that, yeah, I mean, Neoga beat North Clay this year. They also lost to Central A&M, the 16 seed here. So what are you going to get? You really don't know, but
which team's going to get on the bus and go to Toledo that
night? Yeah. Then Windsor Stew Straws CHBC, I think the Windsor Stew Straws is handled. They played them. I'm looking. Well, maybe they haven't. Have they not played yet? Awkward silence here.
Yeah, it's all right. I'm just letting it drift in the wind, buddy. I'm not going to bet you.
I feel like they should have played already, but I'm looking at my I'm looking at my spreadsheet that I'm keeping, and it's not popping out at me. This is fantastic. Fantastic. At any rate, they're gonna play, I do know that Windsor Stew Straws and Cumberland have played. Okay. They played at Christmas time, and that was a 4-point game. That would have been at the St. Elmo holiday tournament, and that would have been guess that would have been in the semifinal round that they played. So 4-point game between the two of them, and then obviously if you get a Windsor Stew Casey rematch, then we know that that's going to be a good ball game that could go either way. Cumberland and Casey have played as well. Cumberland didn't fare so well, but another thing you have to keep in mind about Cumberland is that they played a bulk of this season without one of their without a starter. The Bolt kid has been injured a lot of the year, and they've got him back, and they've been playing, at least by their scores. I haven't seen them, but it seems like they've been playing better ball lately. So who knows? who knows who comes out of that? You got a lot of potential matchups, and all of it seems interesting for a championship game. And then you go down to the South Central Regional. That's where St. Anthony's at, and that's where Christ Our Rock Lutheran is at, and that's where North Clay is at. I mean, good Lord.
That's where South Central is at, and that's where Sisney is at.
Diederich. I mean, this regional is friggin' ridiculous. Like, I'm not saying that anybody did anything wrong, but I'm just saying it's crazy. It's crazy how
You
good
got 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9 of your 16 seeds. 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 9.
And like you look at your opening matchups, and Christ Our Rock, they've only lost one game this year. They got beat by Belleville Althoff, who they split with this year.
I thought it was Alton Marquette.
Oh, Alton Marquette. I'm sorry. Got my Catholic schools mixed up down in that. But yeah, you're right. But they did split with them, so they beat them once, lost to them once. That's their only loss this year. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I went and found some video on Christ Our Rock, but I couldn't find them playing any close. I couldn't find any video on NFHS of them playing any of their closer games that they've had this year. Most of them were, they won going away. So it's hard to completely get a feel, but again, they're
long and they like to press, right?
Yep. I saw them play Sisney in the Midland Trail Championship game, and Sisney hung tough for a while, but really just couldn't deal with
Sisney was a team in the preseason. Somebody told me it was supposed to be really good and keep an eye on them, a good up and comer, and maybe, a 1-year shot at our Christmas tournament. And I don't see it.
Yeah, but that Sisney South Central matchup, you're still like South Central is, they can play very well and give any team a game on the right night. They've played Sisney twice. Is that right? Maybe they only played Sisney once. They beat Sisney by 2 points back on January 6th. That was at Sisney.
So here, you get to host a regional. You get to stay home with the regional. Oh, by the way, you're going to play Sisney first.
Yep. North Clay played Sisney twice, beat them by 9 and 15 in the span of 4 days, actually. Once in a regular season game and then once in a tournament situation. So Sisney South Central should be a fun one. If obviously
St. Anthony Sandoval shouldn't be fun for Sandoval.
Yeah, no, St. Anthony ought to win that one. But then Diederich North Clay.
Yeah. North Clay's has a favor to return from last year's regional.
North Clay.
Diederich knocked them out of the regional last year.
Yeah, and it's Diederich has given them interesting games. They played in the NTC tournament. And I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen now. Don't want to deprive people of our faces too much. They'll tune out if they don't get to see us.
They'll do something.
Yeah, now they'll just have to pause it and go throw up in the restroom. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
But Diederich and North Clay played for third place in the NTC tournament. And Diederich was winning that game for most of the way, but ended up losing by 8.
Yeah, I remember that's also a Logan Fleener playing on 1 foot.
Yep, Diederich beat him North Clay beat them by 13 on February 3rd, so just like a week later. But even that game, I think, was tight for a while. So, it's Diederich. Diederich's got a couple of really, really good players, and if they're both, if Westendorf and Gephardt are both hitting on all cylinders,
yep, they're nice.
They can make life tough for you. Obviously they went into the season, or at least into their off season last year, thinking that they'd have the Britton kid, and he, injury reasons hasn't been able to play, and so they've had to make some adjustments. But Diederich's still going to finish above 500 this year, and they can make that they can give North Clay a lot of trouble in that game. And then, in a semifinal situation, You're going to have Crystal Rock against either Sisney or South Central, but then you're going to have St. Anthony against either Diederich or North Clay. I mean,
Yeah.
St. Anthony versus North Clay, that could.
They've split.
Yeah, St. Anthony won the tournament game pretty easily after losing
Right.
an early season regular season game. But listen, it doesn't mean I want to handicap that one at all.
Nope.
And whatever you get in the championship game, like if you get Crystal Rock against St. Anthony or North Clay or even Diederich, that's going to be, it's. I just got a feeling that it's going to be one of the tougher games that Crystal Rock has played all year long. And
Yep.
I mean, no matter who they play, really, from the, they're going to be challenged in a way that I'm not sure a lot of the competition has been able to challenge them this year. And so,
Hey, Whitey, here's the thing: when you got a group of kids coming that could be really good, and you know this, there's nothing wrong with 3 years out. Let's change a couple things on our schedule.
yeah, well, don't you think that's what North Clay is doing this year, right? Like, I mean,
North Clay's done the last couple of years.
yeah,
Kudos to them.
yeah. I mean, last year
Newton's
was not
done the
fun
same
for
thing.
them.
Newton
Last
had
year
a
was not
great this
necessarily
class
fun for
coming
them.
through. That's why Newton got in our Christmas tournament. That's the only reason Newton got in our Christmas tournament was to prepare them for postseason and face tougher competition.
Yep. Yeah, it's and then I guess I won't reshare my screen, but the other regional feeding into Altamont that doesn't have any local teams in it. Tuscola is the top seed there, a number one seed in their subsectional, like you mentioned. I don't know anything really about any of these teams other than like
It's just pencil and Tuscola coming out of there and go to 2A.
You would think. Yeah. Okaw Valley's in there, Arcola's in there, but I don't. Because
Nope.
something terrible would have to happen to Tuscola for them not to advance there. So
Jump
yeah,
to the 2.
Altamont sectional is going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm telling you, it is.
2A, T-Town.
The Newton sectional.
Yeah.
Manager Craig Hall.
Good guy.
Yes.
I like Craig. I'm going to reshare it actually. We'll take a
That's
look.
all right. I'm already looking at it, so I'm just looking at this. T-Town will play the winner of Paris and Shelbyville. Shelbyville gets to host that. You never know about Paris. Paris got some kids that can play. Then you got Sullivan at Robinson. You got
Sullivan's
Allah's at Flora. Flora's kind of an enigma this year. I see him beat people, and then I see him get beat.
Yeah.
So you probably have T-Town. I don't know who I'm going to pick in the Paris Shelbyville game, and then I'll say Robinson and Flora in the other semi. That's kind of how that should play out. And then who knows moving forward from there.
Yeah.
The shoes I like,
and they got a one
based on their schedule. I like a lot of things about it.
And that's T-Town Regional.
Yeah, they're the host.
They get to host the regional, and then only if they come out of that, go to Newton for, like you said, for the sectional. Yeah. So that's a dream, right? Not have to travel any further than that.
I had a good night at the Newton sectional. Only one though. Couldn't put two together. Litchfield Regional, which is who would face the T-Town Regional. Alton Marquette, who beat Crystal Rock, who split with them. Then you got Litchfield, Vandalia, Carlinville, Pana. I would say Pana, Marquette is probably your final there. Hillsboro, they've had kids in the past. I remember going there for a regional once with T-Town. Saw a kid cry. Kid from a school was a really good shooter, but he could only shoot if he was left open. Okay. The 3-point shootout he was in. The kid went to state and may have won the dang thing, Whitey. He was good. I mean, he could just stand there and bury him. I don't think he got off 2 shots the whole game. We played him man to man, and we wouldn't let him shoot.
Yeah.
And this kid, by the end of the game, he came out of the game one time. He had tears in his eyes because we didn't play in the zone.
Yeah, it's a little different, right? A little different when you're facing a hard-nosed man defense for 32 minutes.
I don't know. And to be honest, I can't tell you which school he was from. I have a general idea, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, he was upset at the end of that game, and we guarded the heck out of him.
Yeah, I mean, teams could get confused by a zone or a gimmick defense, but at the end of the day, I guess if you're physically capable of playing man and just having somebody having 5 guys in 5 guys' faces for 32 minutes, there's a reason why coaches would, if they could, that's what they would do, right? I mean,
we imposed our will on them for a while. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. I was just kind of looking at what Marquette has done this year. Crystal Rock beat them by 15, but then they won the rematch 2 days later. Gosh, they beat Highland by 5 points in overtime. That's a pretty good win.
Yeah, that was early, I think, wasn't it?
It was on January 17th. I don't know if they played some other time earlier than that. Yeah, they lost to Highland in overtime at Thanksgiving or right after Thanksgiving also. Yeah. They got smoked by Mater Dei. Mater Dei beat them by 31 points at Mater.
Where was it at?
Yeah,
at Mater Dei.
Okay. It was at Mater Dei.
Just curious.
They're Marquette's 17-12. They early season they beat Jerseyville by 11. They lost to Centralia by 11. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything that jumps out at me like.
Well, and wasn't Marquette down at the Florida sectional last year?
I don't know.
I thought T-Town beat them last year. So I don't know. And the other side, I guess, of interest down at Lawrenceville, you've got Lawrenceville's the top seed there. Newton's the second seed. Newton's probably going to have to square off against Mount Carmel again. And if they can get out of that one, then they get to play Lawrenceville at Lawrenceville for all the marbles.
Yeah. Lawrenceville got a 2 in their sub and Newton got a 3. So yeah, they're the top 2 seeds in that regional.
And I guess Greenville's the top seed down at Wood River. And I look at that one, boy, there's nobody jumps out at me there.
Yeah, I mean, Piasaw is the next best team seeding wise, and
They have the most obnoxious dugout at a regional baseball game I was ever at. I mean, borderline out of control. Borderline out of control, Whitey. And T-Town shut them up pretty quick.
There is a fine line, isn't there, between good dugout.
It was bad. Of course, that's the year T-Town won state, so that tells you something.
Yeah. I actually think were you broadcasting that or were you just there?
No, I was there as AD.
Okay.
Or no,
I think I was
there.
I think I was at that AD. I think I was working that game.
They played that. It wasn't Vandalia, was it? Was it They played Piasaw the first game, or Alton. They played one and the other. I think they played Alton the first game and then beat Piasaw in the championship.
I think they played, and I can't remember where it was at. I just remember
Marquette was cocky and loud and just stupid.
I just remember our vantage point.
Yeah, you guys were down the third baseline.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. Like very much an afterthought of where they were going to put us.
Yeah, because they only hit early. They hit one ball really hard.
Yeah. One
of the Beaker kids just ran it down like nobody's business, made a great catch, and then T-Town smoked a few balls in the gap, and it was ugly. But man, were they just, they were a team you wanted to beat. Let's put it that way.
Sure. And Effingham's boys, switching gears to 3A real quick, they're going to go down
to the Mount Vernon regional.
Yeah, Mount Vernon. So, as far
as with Marion, somebody just played Marion recently.
As far as 3A regional draws go, like how far you have to travel. I mean, it could have been worse. At least it's a straight shot, right? Like,
yeah, well, Centralia.
Yeah,
that was your option. You either went to Centralia or you went to Mount Vernon. And the Mattoon people got split up going north. One of them goes to Where do they go? Oh, Matt Toon hosts a regional. So yeah.
Yeah, Matt Toon's got a regional, and then well, Charleston's in it. So
Yeah.
um yeah, Effingham's got to play Marion. I'm looking at Marion's schedule real quick to see who you might be talking about. Marion's got a losing record, you
Didn't
know.
Marion just play Effingham?
No,
Oh, where do I think that?
I don't know. Marion played Centralia and lost by 1 point though.
Yeah, I was thinking there was somebody Marion had
Oh,
played them.
Newton. Newton.
Yeah, Newton. They played
Newton
down in
beat,
that shootout at Pinckneyville.
Newton beat him by 21 points.
Newton beat Marion or Marion
Yeah.
beat Newton?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Marion beat Newton. I got it backwards.
Hey, just small detail.
Yeah, 21 points swing one way or the other. Doesn't
Yeah,
hardly
yeah.
matter, right? No,
Only in
they beat
Vegas.
Newton.
Those scores only matter to certain people.
They beat Newton, but they lost to Centralia by a point. Yeah, they got so again, like they got a losing record, but you really have to think about what they're, who they play.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. When you're 3A, now you got to play the big boys, and Mitch and Uwe aren't walking through the building right
now. No, Effingham. I don't know. It's another year like last year where the record's not where you want it to be, but you can point to like a handful of games and say, "Gosh, if we had just played a little better that day, then." But
yeah, but then you
I don't
also
know, but
see, well, we beat Taylorville in overtime, and
yeah, and Matt Toon got us. Yeah, I know it's I don't want to rag on him, but it's just been a tough couple of seasons. It's been a tough couple of seasons, and
it is.
And it's going to be an uphill climb for them to win a regional. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. Mount Vernon's the top seed, and I mean Effingham's the lowest seed in that regional. They got to play Marion, and then if they should happen to win, then they got to play Mount Vernon, and then if they should happen to win, they'd have to play either Heron or Olney. So good luck. That's a tough place to be, but they'll.
Did you see? Heron Benton ended up being a double forfeit.
Yeah, I did see that.
I don't understand that.
I don't either. And
I saw the video, and I'm trying to figure out how Heron had to forfeit.
I mean, I wasn't on the floor for whatever was leading up to that. I mean, those things don't.
Oh, I understand. The actual altercation, what I saw was all the young man from Benton. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And what people were saying about that, and what does make some sense to me, is like, okay, so you're telling me that, if we're down late in the game and we're not gonna pull it out, we can just start a fight, and then the other team loses too.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a goofy. All right, moving to college, Whitey. We have Indiana's won twice, 2 more wins, Rutgers and Michigan.
I just wanted pointed out that I didn't agree to talk about college basketball today.
Oh, okay.
I will
say this.
You say moving to college. You say moving to college like this was planned, and
I'm looking at my agenda.
Well,
my concern. I will say this. I was concerned yesterday
when Michigan gave the game away.
Oh yeah, but second half. Contact under the basket, under Michigan's basket. Trace Jackson Davis, I think, ended up on the floor. Okay. He gets fouled late. He has a chance to ice with 12 seconds to go.
Mm-hmm.
He has a history of some back issues. Missed a couple games this year because of back issues. He's at the line, maybe 10 seconds, 8 seconds, 12 seconds, 1-1, Indiana up 1. And he's not the world's greatest free throw shooter, probably 67%, and that barely hit the front of the rim. That's not, oh my God, he's nervous. I'm interested to see if there's how his back is. I don't know who they got this week. I think they've got Illinois Saturday. So I don't know who they play midweek, but yeah, I was a little concerned when I saw that. And I haven't been checking in the Indiana stuff today. So
you and I agree that Juwan Howard is probably not going to ever take Michigan anywhere they want to go.
Well, he made a great run with them last year, but here's the thing. I think he's more style than substance. How's that? He's had a couple run-ins with a couple different coaches. Don't put your hands on me. Well, whatever. Juwan, I saw your first game as a freshman at Indiana. You didn't do too well. I don't understand when you have Hunter Dickinson, he doesn't even get a touch the last two possessions, and both possessions were inside a minute, by the way. Didn't get a touch. And the last shot, I'm not even sure they got a shot off, Whitey. They had the ball with 8 seconds, down 1. I'm not even sure they got a shot off before the horn sounded.
And you and I didn't see it, but my understanding is that Michigan they didn't score a point last 5 minutes or so of that game.
It was,
and they lost by 1.
Indiana wasn't playing great because it was Jackson Davis and Hood Schifino were the only two really scoring. Michigan wasn't doubling down on anybody, so you weren't getting the kickouts to shooters. Trace Thompson didn't play; he wasn't dressed. And Geronimo got injured. He's back. He got injured. They just got to get healthy. Now, rumor has it Xavier Johnson is going to be back, but I don't know if that's a huge advantage. He's a great defender and does some good things, but man, Jalen Hood-Schifino's really upped his game since he's been the man running the point.
Indiana has Northwestern, by the way.
That's a toughie. That's in Indiana, isn't it?
No, it's in Evanston.
I'm going to say do not be surprised if Trace Jackson Davis doesn't play in that game.
And then Illinois goes to Indiana on Saturday. So,
because I'm going in 2 weeks when Iowa comes, I believe, to end the season.
Illinois, by the way, beat Rutgers yesterday.
But they go on a 19-0 run. Well, that's not the Rutgers team I've seen play this year. I was like, what in the – did they send their JV team to Illinois? I was watching that game. I was like, that second half? I was like, are you kidding me?
Rutgers going to drop out of the top 25 because they lost twice this week.
During that 19-0 run Indiana had, it looked like me, you, and 3 guys from the rec this afternoon, Whitey. Rutgers was terrible.
Well, listen, I've always been a pretty good shooter, okay? It's the only thing
you're like that kid at the regional who could only shoot when no one's guarding you.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the only thing
you were like
really
could
do. But I could knock down I could knock down an open shot. That's about all I got. Yeah.
I just thought of something about that kid, and I'm going to say it. I may get in trouble, but we in the scouting report we nicknamed him.
Okay.
And there's a good reason we nicknamed him this, but we nicknamed him T-Rex because Tyler used to at half court knock down half court shots pretty regularly.
Oh, yeah.
He'd pay the $1 and he could shoot it. Again, nobody around shooting. Tyler can shoot it. He could knock down shots, and this kid was that way. Nobody guarding him. He could shoot, and we, in the scouting report, we jokingly called him T-Rep. That stuck with him because all the time guys would be on the bench going, make sure you know where T-Rep is at all times. Don't help off of him. But Tyler wouldn't have cried. He wouldn't have done that. This kid went to the bench with tears in his eyes because we ruined his day.
Last thing, and I don't even know how much I'm going to watch because we got a big day. But
Eagles, buddy. If the Eagles win, I either get first or second in the world famous Habacourse family football pool, which I've never. One time I was in the hunt going into the Super Bowl, and whatever it was a game that was decided in the last 3 or 4 minutes, and I came up on the short end. So I'm finally in the hunt. And now if the Eagles win and the leader does not pick the Eagles, I win. If he picks the Eagles and I pick the Eagles, I get second. So if the Eagles win, I get some money. I might buy lunch if the Eagles win.
I kind of wanted them to win anyway, but I guess that
I did too.
Pretty much cements it. I can't find it in my heart to really care too much, to be perfectly honest. And I also just know well, a friend of the show, actually, a guy who I know watches us, because he had some nice words about our King Crawford show. But we
Who's
got
that?
Mike Roy coming in to do some work on our kitchen
Oh,
starting tomorrow. Well, not some work, we're remodeling it. So
all right.
I just
Mike's a
kind of
good
know
guy. I like Mike.
he
Mike
goes
used to
to.
help Jason Hampson coach there back in the
Oh
day.
yeah, he still goes to every Neoga game, road
Oh
or
yeah.
away. He pretty much not every, but almost all of them.
You
Almost
know,
all.
Mike's in a minority. He's one of the few people that's ever not said bad things to me.
I'll next time I see him at a game, which will probably be
Yeah.
Tuesday. If I run into him Tuesday at the Neoga Girls Regional, I'll see if I can get him to talk shit about you a little bit.
Oh, don't get him started. He's led a charmed life.
I mean, wait a minute. I don't have to wait to run into him Tuesday because he's gonna be at my house
Yeah.
tomorrow.
All right. So here's probably a better bet. Will I be awake for the whole Super Bowl?
Well, we're doing this at a time when you probably ought to be napping. So
Yeah,
so
Sunday, man. I'm in my recliner at some point Sunday, close, but it's so nice outside. I think I'm gonna go for a walk when we're done here. I'm
yeah,
shaking a bug off. Why have you been under the weather a little bit?
yep. Well, I don't have anything else real interesting to say, so I can let you get to it. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah, go Birds, I guess. But
Yeah,
mostly it's almost baseball season again, and
getting close.
with the Bears being in the state that they are, it's really the only professional sport that I can get all too excited about. So
I did read an interesting article that I really liked. May have been Bernie Micklitz wrote it online about the Cardinals spring training. He really likes the World Baseball Classic being going on, and then they're still playing spring training because that gives some people a lot of at bats for the Cardinals because the Cardinals have 11 players, I think, going to be in the World Baseball Classic.
well,
So
and
they're missing obviously some big time people. However, the Jordan Walkers, the Burlesons, the Yepes, a lot of these guys are going to get a lot of at bats in spring training.
yeah, it's and those guys who are off playing for their countries will be competitive at bats too, because
Yeah,
they're
those guys, Goldschmidt, Arenado, those guys, Tommy Edman, I think, is playing for, let's see, Newbar's playing for Japan. Edmonds playing for somebody. Plus, it gives
yeah.
Jack Flaherty a long spring training to see if he's going to be Jack Flaherty or not Jack Flaherty.
Tommy Edmonds playing for Korea.
He's playing for Korea.
Yeah, no, I like
Tyler
to watch it.
O'Neill's on Team Canada.
I look forward to it, but
And the most important person in Cardinal spring training, other than Jordan Walker, who gets unlimited at bats now, and I've read a lot about Paul DeYoung.
he needs.
I he I was told he embraced some things and kind of went back to his roots, and has been what I've read is good. If it happens, if he's still hitting a $160, then they're not going to use him.
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to wish good luck to anybody who plays for the Cardinals, but I don't
I know
wish.
how Braves fans are.
By the way, I don't know that we ever touched on the fact that former guest Chad Green's going to play for the Blue Jays.
We should have, yeah. Toronto Blue Jays, he
Not
signed.
right away, but eventually.
Yeah, there's no guarantee he's going to pitch this year. His contract, I didn't understand it. I read it several times and I'm still confused. It was a 2-year contract, but a third option that he holds and the team holds. Is that right?
Something like that. I mean, I
Yeah,
didn't look at it very closely.
then why do you? I don't understand if both teams hold an option unless it has to do with money.
I don't know, but I do know that as far as potential landing spots go for him, that's his home field will be one that he's obviously familiar with because he was with the Yankees, and so it's another NL East or AL East team. So he's a lot of familiar road trips. It's a
and I hope
the fact that it's a multi-year deal, like it gives him a chance to fully rehab, and he probably hasn't had access to any team doctors. since
Right.
since
And
the
they've got
regular
a good
season.
young core with Guerrero and Bichette.
No, it'd be fun, you know.
Yeah. And here's the thing. I've been to Toronto. It's an amazing
Oh
city.
yeah. I have not, but nobody who's been there that I know has ever had anything bad to say about
When
it.
you go up in the needle, the sky thing, you can see down it. They had the roof open. I could see down into the sky dome.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
pretty cool. So yeah, and what do you get? 2 year, 8 million?
Yeah, I mean,
We
listen.
may have to reach out about sponsorship for the podcast. Whitey and Wills and Chad Green podcast.
Okay, you know.
Brought to you by Chad Green's Right On. See, it's catchy. It just flows off your tongue.
I like where your head's at.
I think somehow he will find out we said that. We will make sure that gets to
him. All right. Well, let's call it a week.
All right.
By the time we talk again, it'll be all postseason, and we'll have of course, a couple of regular season NTC games left to talk about on the boys' side, but most of the
postseason will be in full swing. Girls regionals will be over.
They will.
Boys regionals will have been started.
Most all the 1A and most of
they've been started, but yeah, I mean some will play Saturday.
Yep,
and
yep.
I don't right now. I don't know if I want to get us a guest next week or not.
It'd be a lot. We'll see.
I know.
We'll talk.
We'll see.
All right. Take it easy, Mike.
Later, Whitey.